Now, the juncture between, say, the phase 18 to 25 years old and 25 to 32 years old, obviously these are indicative dates. This is a scheme. This is not supposed to reflect in a high resolution manner reality for every single INFJ out there. This juncture is important for a number of reasons. And I think one of the reasons that it's important is that it sometimes happens that this particular juncture presents a temptation to solipsism. So solipsism comes back with a vengeance. We've already seen that the majority of INFJs tend to be compliant, okay? A minority are secure, another significant minority are solipsistic, and another minority, which is growing every day, is more of the polarized spinning type without the presence of a strong superego, like a rather weak superego, which is really new and I will have to tackle. But I think to provide a sort of genetic account or evolutionary account of that type, I need to do it separately because that is so new and so different. But I'm sure it'll be of interest to you as well. I kind of need to grasp it fully first too, because again, it's new. So speaking of more traditional INFJ life trajectories, there's a temptation to solipsism nevertheless on the part of compliant INFJs. And the reason why is as follows. By age 25, 26, right, it's clear that a lot of INFJs will have gone through first few job experiences. They will have gone through a number of maybe romantic relationships. And if they have decided to opt for long studies in university, they'll have experienced maybe research of their own, okay? And this is where the compliant INFJ, or most common INFJ, is exposed to something that happens to a lot of them, which is a kind of frustration, a deeply felt frustration. We're still in the existential domain, and we're going to remain primarily in the existential domain because as I have said, the principal emancipation that the INFJ is facing as a theme in their life trajectory is existential emancipation. It's not emotional, it's not intellectual, at least not in the first place, emotional or intellectual or psychological. It's existential. It's about your choices. And what happens is this. Now, this compliant INFJ, in a lot of cases, is very aware of their originality, is very aware that they see things differently from most people. That's in the nature of anti-dominance. Now, that's the self-image, okay? That's the self-image that they have, okay? They also have a demanding ego ideal. You remember that, right? So quite a high expectations of themselves, even though they don't phrase those expectations, verbalize them in the presence of other people, sometimes not even consciously to themselves. It's nevertheless present, provides a narrative that guides them. But what they're showing the world is compliance. But if I say that what they're showing the world is compliance, well, I'm also saying that they're showing their colleagues, their managers, the people at work, they're showing compliance. In university, their fellow students, their professors, their research advisors, maybe their thesis supervisors, what they're going to show them is compliance too, because that's external. In other words, the INFJ, this INFJ, gets to a stage where they see that they're not being acknowledged for their originality at an age where they would like society to acknowledge it. They see that it's not acknowledged. Their work colleagues might mention that they are interesting people, but you know, they're a good colleague, they're this and that, but nothing special. In university, often they stop themselves from having the most original and daring thoughts because of compliance, but this is what other people notice. They don't see what's in the inner mind, the inner self of the INFJ, so the originality is not acknowledged at all. And they start thinking, like, this is not me. If I continue. I'm just going to lead a life that is very far from my ego ideal and quite discordant with who I really am. And that's what presents the temptation to solipsism, because the easiest route, as perceived by this INFJ, is to think, to hell with these people. They don't recognize my originality. They don't recognize what I'm uniquely bringing. You know, my ego ideal doesn't need them. I'm going to follow my own path. I'm going to get rid of them. I'm going to no longer interact with them. They are the ones who are wrong. And I'm going to just cut them off and sort of metaphorically stay by myself to find in there the reassurance that I am indeed unique, original, and singular. So you see how the temptation to solipsism is very much alive at this particular point in time. And it arises in different conditions than the original choice for solipsism during the school years, right? During the teenage years. In this case, the temptation to solipsism arises out of a disappointment, a realization that as they have made, you know, like they have forged a path into their adult years, they've experienced 6-7 years of it, and they're still not turning out to be what they are more or less consciously hoping to be. And they panic. There's a sense of existential panic. Am I going to remain like this or not? Something kind of significant needs to happen, and solipsism is kind of waving its hand, saying, you know, maybe you can choose this. And this is also a phase of idealization of solipsistic figures, right? So the more intellectual INFJs in that category might start, you know, thinking, I can be like Wittgenstein, I can be like Dostoevsky, I can be like, you know, these people. I mean, Dostoevsky was no solipsist, but might be admired as such by INFJs, you know, Wittgenstein and other ones. As we will see in the next video, even when INFJs fall for this temptation, effectively become solipsistic, usually the way out is a little bit more accessible than if they've been solipsistic since their teenage years, because the choice was made at a time where there was a high level of maturity and compliance and its advantages had been experienced. And mixing compliance and solipsism can also be a path to spiritualization, but we'll see this in a future vid. Thank you guys. Don't forget you can support me on Patreon. Please consider it, guys, because I need your support more than ever. I could not do this without you. The link to my Patreon page is below. For a small amount every month, you get access to cool perks like our Discord server, the Fold, as well as bonus video content every 2-3 weeks on a topic of your choice called Deep Dives. Most importantly, you really support me. You can also support me by getting my last book, The Infinite Soul, on the INFJ, exclusively on INFJs in the modern world. Get the book if you haven't yet at the first link below in the description box. At the links below is also available The Ecstatic Soul, my first book in the Soul series, Put My Name on the Map, which is still to this day the deepest investigation of the INFJ mind and INFJ consciousness. Get the book if you haven't yet, and I'll talk to you very soon, guys. See you tomorrow.